My name is Narendra Chaarag and I am a 54 years young outdoor enthusiast. On the 1st of August 2020 at 4:43 in the morning, I set out on my routine 100 kilometers solo cycling ride. 32 kilometers into the ride, I was already away from the known surroundings of my town and now pedaling on the outskirts of the neighboring city, Ranchi. That's when disaster struck and I was hit by an overspeeding truck from behind. I was lying on the ground, crying in pain, hoping somebody would come and help. I did see people gather around me, but what was surprising was that everybody would come close to where I was lying, stop short of where I was, start to point at me, but none would touch. So I instantly understood that there was something about my injuries which was scaring them. When I raised my head, looked down, I found the answer. My right leg at the shin bone level had actually broken. And I'm using the word broken because it describes how it looked. I understood that if I do not help myself, lead the way, and rally the people around into helping me, I'll continue to lie there. So I gathered my wits. I introduced myself to the crowd. I requested someone to call the police. Someone with a motorcycle was requested to go to the nearest military station, which happened to be about 6 kilometers away, and fetch an ambulance. I also got my phone located, got a call put through to a colleague and gave him an update requesting him for whatever help he could get. Finally, I asked someone to look for a stick and tie my leg using that as a splint. Someone got a stick, and when I tried to sit to tie my leg, I felt a shooting pain in my abdomen. There was a strong urge to pee. Thought of letting go, didn't happen. So I knew there was something wrong with the urinary system too. That's also when I found that my back started to move. So I knew there was something wrong there as well. It is much later that I came to know that in addition to the broken leg, all 4 bones of my pelvis had been fractured at about 16 places. But those were not the main injuries. The more severe and the life-threatening injuries were the rupture of the urinary bladder, the rupture of the large intestine and the small intestine. In fact, by the time they cut me open in the evening, an 8-inch section of the small intestine had already turned gangrenous, which they had to cut across and throw away. I kept lying for a little more time, and that's when I saw a policeman. I requested him to commandeer a vehicle and take me to the hospital. He said they were waiting for the army ambulance. So I kept lying for a little more time, and that's when I started to feel the numbness in the edges of my fingers. Now the army has taught me some basics of the first aid, and I knew these were the signs of the excessive blood loss starting to hit the body. I knew I was running against time. So I requested this gentleman once again. He still wasn't moved. And this is when the soldier in me kicked up again, and I started to fight with him, abuse him in the best of the language that I had learned over my life. Well, it paid. This gentleman got the PCR jeep in which he had actually traveled to the site of the accident. I was bundled into it, and they drove me to the nearest garrison, which was 6 kilometers away, offloaded me on the gate next to the road, told the sentry, "Aapka aadmi hai, dekh lena," and drove off. Fortunately for me, the person who I had sent on a motorcycle to fetch the ambulance had done his job. The ambulance was on its way. I was bundled into the ambulance, and this is the first time when a trained paramedic was attending on me. I told the gentleman not to waste time in taking me to the nearby doctor in the garrison and instead take me straight to the military hospital, which was another 12 kilometers away. I also told him to give a call to whomsoever he knew who could pass a message down to the operation theatre and get it activated, call the surgeon and the anesthetist from their homes. Finally, I gave him what I thought my injuries were, adding specifically that should I faint in between, he should tell the doctor that he should not waste in time looking for a head injury because I was fine here. By the time I reached the hospital, I was still in my senses. I blabbered out my injuries to the doctor. The last of the words that I spoke were, "Please pump the fluids fast, I am sinking." I did, but I knew I was in safe hands. Now while the doctors were trying to stabilize me, my friends, my family and my organization was working overtime to try and get an air ambulance. By the afternoon, they could manage an air ambulance. I was put into the aircraft and flown to Command Hospital, Lucknow. In the evening, I went through the first set of my surgeries. The orthopedic team inserted about 6 pins in the abdomens, and they were tied with a cage sort of a structure in the top. The intestines were set right, the urinary bladder was set right, but the doctors weren't sure whether I'll be able to pull through or not. I was certain I wasn't dying. 3 days later, I was declared out of danger. 12 days later, the urinary bladder and the small intestines, both the intestines started working. On the 17th day, I underwent the next set of my surgeries, this time to remove this cage, the fixator from the top, and should I say, screw me together to hold me tight. There was 4 screws of 4.5 inches each, all 4 in the pelvis, and the leg was joined together using a rod. By the 25th day, I had started to turn in my bed. By the 35th day, I could sit with somebody supporting me on my back. 45th day, they could lift me like a potato and keep me in the wheelchair. Now the doctors were more or less confident that I will be able to walk someday. That's the day when I announced to them that 1 year from the date of my accident, I will cycle and I will try and complete the 100-kilometer century, which I could not. Over the next 2 months, the problems with the urinary bladder kept surfacing off and on, but they could be set right with some surgeries, some minor, some not so minor. 118 days later, that is almost 4 months, that was the first day when I was allowed to set my foot on the ground with the help of a walker. 4 months later, I could graduate from the walker to double crutches. That's the day when I promised to my daughter that during her wedding, which was 9 months from the date of the accident, her father will not be seen with crutches. Did I keep my promise? Well, yes, I did. I shed my crutches 7 days before her wedding. Thereafter, my date started with the 1st of August, 1 year hence. Kept pushing myself against the advices of a lot of doctors and some physiotherapists. But I did go out for a cycling ride on the 1st of August 2020, that is 365 days. I was able to do about 52 kilometers at a respectable speed. All this while, a lot of people kept asking me, was it tough? Well, to admit honestly, it really was. For an active man like me, lying straight on the bed for 35 days is in itself a challenge. If I were to believe in technology, then the wristwatch that I started to wear 45 days after the accident, it gave the readings of my sleep at 1 to 2 hours in a 24-hour cycle. The stress levels were indicated at 91. They are now at 27 and 28. There are a lot of other lessons which I learned there. 1, you don't lose until you give up yourself. The second, the human body has endless power to endure physical pain or hardship. It is here that you lose. The third, I have come to realize the importance of having a strong family and a support network. In fact, we must all have a wide circle of friends and cherish them because they are always the first responders and they are the ones who stand by your family, the caregivers, when they start to shut up. In fact, in this gathering, the biggest sufferer of the entire episode, my wife, she sits here. And one of my strongest support system is also sitting in the first row here. I've also come to realize the value of prayers. I've also come to realize the value of blessings. I've also come to realize the importance of having to be working with a strong organization. Any organization which stands by you in adversity, that's the strength of the organization and not in the good times, which everyone does. Finally, I have come to realize as to why the doctors are called gods in white coats. I have come to understand that God does exist. Thank you.